Well, hello, class. I'm Tom Mahoney. I'm back with you. We're continuing our Aerosim flight training, FMS flight training. So let's begin where we left off. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to back up just a little bit. We're going to do a little bit of a review. Last time we had class on this subject material, we had just completed initializing the FMS going from Salina to Denver, Colorado. So let's review real quickly. I'm just going to run through real quickly how we did that. I'm going to do it at normal speed. I'm not going to talk a lot. I'm just going to pop in a few little words just to let you try to keep up with where I'm going. But let's say we just got into the aircraft. We got the electrical turned on. We did our safety scan before we did that, and got the electrical power turned on. Everything's looking good. Instruments are all up. Now I can jump in and go ahead and initialize the FMS. And we're going to do the same thing we did last time, only this is going to be, like I say, normal speed. All right. First thing we're going to do is go to the index page. We're there. Go to the status page, review, make sure our databases are correct. I'm going to say it's not. I'm going to drop it down. I'm going to drop this one down, put it in the scratch pad, put it up into the next line, check my dates out, my time out, my dates out, looks good, go to the next page, check to make sure I'm in the right aircraft, right engines, looks good, go back to index, position it, and let's see, I'm going to take a look, I'm at Salina, the lat longs look good, go to the next page, grab GPS 1, go to the previous page, put GPS 1 up into the set position, go to index, view R, enabled, go back to index, GPS, enabled, looks good, and FMS controls, mag and sync, all in green, I'm good, go down to the radios, okay, I'm in manual, I'm going to go auto, that's it for that. Come over here, and I need to say I'm on the left side of the aircraft. I'm the pilot flying. I'm going to go VNAV. I'm going to set speed and altitude. I don't care about the rest. I'm going to go to the next page. I got rings to altitude already set. I'm going to change this over to the right side. I'm going to put the pilot monitoring to on, and I'm going to select speed and altitude for him. Go to the next page, verify, and then come back and reselect the left side. MFD is done, performance page, enable, and flight management, check to make sure it's in predictive. I'm good with that. And jump up and go origin and destination. I know I'm going from Salina, SLN, and insert that. Going to Denver, KDEN, and insert that. I get my mileage. I'm flight number 123. I'll put that in there, and looks good. Execute. I am done initializing this FMS. That's how quick you need to be able to do it in real time, real life. That's what you'd be doing on a day in and day out, actually leg by leg. That's how fast you can get it done. So let's move on, and let's go ahead at this point. We did our walk around. We came back in. We had all the equipment on board that we need. We've checked our circuit breakers. We've sat down. We've done our final scan, and I have now called for my ATIS through ACARS, and I've called for my clearance through ACARS. So now I have both my ATIS available to me, and I have the clearance available to me. What I do not have available to me yet is the load sheet. That's still to come. But now that I've got my ATIS and clearance in, I can take a look at what I'm doing. I'm going to read my ATIS really quick. At Salina, it looks like I'm departing on runway 17, and I'm going to arrive at Denver. I'm going to say we're going to just plan on 17 left. Okay, that's fine with me. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at my clearance, and I've got my PDC over ACARS. I printed it out, and now it says that flight 123 is cleared from Salina to Denver as filed. maintain 4,000 feet, expect flight level 300. 10 minutes after departure, contact departure 124.4 and squawk 4431. All right, I've got that information. Now I can start going to work in the FMS through the MCDU, and I've got to decide how I'm going to put this route in. Well, the first thing I've got to ask myself is, how do I begin? Well, I was on flight plan page here. I have some entries here that I could put in. I have the origin runway. I'd like to see 17 right here. And then I'm going to go via, and then I'm going to go to the first fix, which is going to be Hayes. So here's my first fix, is the runway. Via means I've got some sort of routing that I need to use to get to my next fix, which in this case is Hayes, because it says I'm cleared as filed, and it's Salina to Hayes, Hothie Dandy 1 to Denver. All right, so I need to figure out, how am I going to put this origin runway? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my departure arrival button. Now, this is a two push button. The first push will get me to my departures, and the next push will get me to my arrivals. Well, I'm talking to myself about departures. So I'm going to click this button once. And if I go down here, it will show me that I'm departing Salina. I've got page 1 of 2, so I must have another page. And I'm going to go down here. It says I do not have any SIDs, standard instrument departures. Well, because I'm at Salina, it's a small airport. That makes sense. So let's take a look what kind of runways I have the options of taking off on. And it gives me runway 4, 12, runway 17, 18, 22. Let's go to the next page. And I've got runway 30, 35, and 36. Okay, I'm going to go to the previous page, back to page 1, where I saw runway 17. I will select 17, and it puts it up at the top, and it says SEL. Runway 17 has now been selected. I'm going to go ahead and execute that. Okay, it's executed. Now I'm going to go back to my flight plan page to see what it looks like. Well, sure enough, it put it in originating runway 17. That's how I got the 17 in there. So I went to the departure page on the departure arrival button, and then I selected 17. I do not have a SID, so I did not have a way of putting anything in here. Well, let's see what's actually going to happen if I go back to that arrival departure page again. Let's see. Is there anything over here? Doesn't look like it. So I guess I'm going to have to do some things manually. So I will go back to the flight plan page, and my next fix, based on my flight plan, is from Salina Airport to the Hayes VOR. That is HYS. So I'm going to go down into my alphabetic keys. I'm going to select HYS. I'm going to put it over here because that's where I want to go to. And let's see what happens. I put it in there. It takes me automatically to the next page, but I got to have an execute enunciation here. So I'm going to execute that just so you see what happens. I execute it, and then I come back to my flight plan page. And now you see that it's put in Hayes in the 2 position. And the computer is smart enough to recognize if I didn't put anything in the via, it will put it in as direct for me, which is exactly what I have here. Salina direct to Hayes. Perfect. Okay. Page 1 is now full. I don't have any slots that I can fill in here. This route right here has all these dashes. That's for like a company route. The company might have given me a route number, which I could have plugged in, and it would have filled all the FMS out for me automatically. But I'm flying for a discount airline here, so apparently they don't have route numbers. This alternate is for like an alternate airport in case the weather was below minimums at my destination. I would want to have an alternate. So I don't have an alternate because the weather out in Denver looked pretty good, skies clear. So the dispatcher never gave me an alternate. So I'm not worrying about an alternate today. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next page. And I've got via and to. Well, if I go over and look at my route, it says Hayes to Othie and then Dandy 1. Dandy 1 is the arrival. Othie is the beginning of the arrival. So Othie is an intersection. It has 5 letters. Dandy is the arrival. So Othie is my transition point off of the route to the star. So let's take a look at how to do that. I have a couple options here. I can put Othie in right now. O-A-T-H-E. Othie is now in my scratch pad. I can put it up here to R1 and it'll put it in just fine. Okay, not a problem. And it's smart enough to know that I'm going direct to Othie from Hayes. Okay, so on the previous page, let's go back to the previous page. It says I'm taking off of runway 17 at Salina, and I'm going direct to Hayes. And the next 2 is going to be on the next page. And I put direct to Othie. That looks good. But how do I get the arrival in there? Well, I would go to the departure arrival page, click on the button once. It's got up at the top, it says Salina departure. If I click it again, it will give me a departure arrival index, but it gives me Salina again, departure, and it gives me Salina arrival. Well, that's only there in case I have an emergency return to the airport. So it's quick and easy for me just to go into the MCDU and turn the airplane around and go back to Salina. But I'm not going back to Salina as far as the plan is concerned at this stage. I need to come down here and select the Denver arrival. So I'm going to Denver. That's what I'm planning on. So I'm going to select the arrivals. And it gives me a whole bunch of arrivals here. Look at all these arrivals. Geez, I've got 10 pages of information here to go through. Well, I can see Dandy 1 is right here on the first page. That's my arrival over here on my clearance that I've gotten when it said cleared as filed. So Dandy is my arrival. Let's just take a look at the next pages here. Well, look at how many arrivals they have at Denver. There's a boatload of them. And then they have a bunch of approaches for all the different runways at Salina. And no wonder they have 10 pages. So I go back to page 1 by just continuing rotating through, and I'm going to select Dandy. Okay, Dandy is up here now, selected, SEL, and my transition point is Othie. So, you know what? I've got to select Othie to have the airplane know that I want the transition off route to go from Othie to the Dandy 1 arrival. I also need to take a look at what kind of runway I'm going to be landing. And I have a feeling, just based on the ATIS I had, that I'm still going to be landing runway 17 left. Well, I'm looking over here and I see 17 left on the first page. Wasn't that lucky? Okay, so I'll take 17 left, and it says I'm going to get vectors to 17 left if I want. I do want that, as opposed to some of the fixes that are on the approach. I'm just going to take vectors to 17 left. So I'm going to click 17 left, vectors, and I have now set myself up for this information. What do I want to do now? I think I look pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and execute it because I have the execute prompt. Okay, that's just great. Okay, But I don't know if it actually went in because I'm still on the Denver arrival page. So I'm going to go back to my flight plan again, take a look at it. I've got now, instead of 2 pages, I have 3 pages because I put a lot of information in on the arrival going into Denver. So let's take a look. What's on my next page? Well, I'm direct to Oath. And then Oathie is my transition point. Then I'm going to, I believe that's Mile High VOR. And then I have a discontinuity. Okay. Well, if I have a discontinuity, that sometimes is not a good thing. Sometimes it's not a bad thing. What I don't want to have happen is have a discontinuity in my cruise phase of flight. I will accept a discontinuity if I get down to the bottom of my arrival and I am going to end up getting vectors to the final approach course. Well, on page 2 of 3, let's see what's on the next page. It says missed approach, so previous page. So apparently I'm going to go to Holt, transition from Holt to runway 17 left, and fly the approach. If I do a missed approach on the next page, it shows me missed approach to my missed approach point. All right, now that seems pretty simple. I also want to check to make sure that it's all in there. So I select the legs page. Remember, we went directly to the flight plan page and we inserted some stuff. We went to the departure page, inserted some stuff. But now I want to go back to the legs page because the legs page will give me every point that I'm going to fly across. The flight plan page doesn't actually give me that. It gives me direct Oathie Dandy. It doesn't give me any points in here. It just says that's the procedure I'm going to be using. But to actually see the points on the procedure, I can go to the legs page and it shows me every point that I'm going to be crossing. In this case, it looks like I'm taking off runway 17. I'm going to the Hayes VOR. I'm going to Oathie. And I'll bet if I look at my arrival route by getting out my EFB, my electronic flight bag, I will be able to pull up the procedure, the Dandy 1 procedure, and look at where Oath is, follow my procedure on in. The next fix after Oath should be cells, then Prague, and then I can go to the next page, and the next fix should be Kippy, Cleve, then Dandy, and from Dandy I would go to PD, to Goves, next page, I would go to the Mile High VOR, and then from the Mile High VOR, approach control is going to give me vectors to cross over the final approach fix towards 17 left. Now, I could look at this, I can read it, I kind of know that's where I'm going because I've done this before, but I want to verify by sight exactly where the magenta line is taking me. So let me take a look at this another way. Since I can go to the legs page, I can change what this screen looks like. This is my MFD. I'm going to change the format of it. I'm going to go to a page that is called the plan page. Some people refer to it as north up. How do I do that? I come down here to this panel and I select the format as if I'm going to change the format. See how the format changed on my panel? I'm looking for my plan page and I'm about to find it right there. Remember when I said some people call it the north up page? Because there's an N at the top of the ring. Okay? So it shows Hayes right in the middle, I've got a 20-mile ring. I can change that and make it bigger. I'm going to enlarge the range. I just made it 40 knots. The way this works on your FMS is you swipe over that button and you'll see that there's the knob that I'm really turning in real life, but it shows me that format here is the outer ring of the knob and the range is the inner knob. So it depends on which one I want to go. So if I want to do format, I can change it here. And these two plus and minus buttons, I just happen to know is range. If you play with this just a little bit, it'll become a little bit intuitive because format's first, range is next. So format's on top, range is on the bottom, and I can increase my range again. And I can keep going on out. And now I see the whole route going all the way out to Denver. That's got a lot of clutter. I can't see much definition. So I've got too much range. So I'm going to back it up and I'm going to leave it at 40. Okay. Now, as long as I have selected the legs page and I am on my plan page with north up, I can review this route pretty easily because now these two arrow buttons here will work. And they don't work unless I'm on the legs page and on the plan view on the MCDU, on the MFD. So let's take a look at how my cursor buttons work. I'm going to come all the way back to a place where I know I'm at. Okay, I put my cursor, you can see CTR up here, bracketed with little arrows on both sides, pointed to runway 17. Now I can review my route point by point along the way, and I will be able to see it in the plan view because the plan view will move point by point. So I'm on the cursors on runway 7, so 17. So that puts runway 17 right in the middle of my circle. If I move the cursor down to Hayes, it puts Hayes right in the middle of the circle. The next point that's going to be in the middle of the circle is going to be Othie. Well, there's Othie right there. I'm starting to see sales up here, but can't be for sure. So I move my cursor on down to sales. Sales is there. Now I'm getting a lot of points and I can see a lot of points here. If I'm smart, I'm going to reduce the range a little bit more to 20 miles. So I just reduced it and now I can see sales pretty clearly. And now the next point is going to be Prague. So I'm going to move to Prague on my cursor and Prague will then go to the middle of the screen. Prague is now in the middle of the screen. That looks good. And now if I push the button again, it will take me to Kippy. Kippy is now, the cursor is now on Kippy. And I can go to the next cursor and look at Cleve, Dandy, and Petey, and Goves. And finally, I'm now Mile High VOR. If I want to look at reduce the range a little bit more, I can see that after Mile High VOR, the line does not continue. And that is why I have the discontinuity here. Since I have a discontinuity at the end of my arrival, I'm expecting to get vectors out here to join the final approach course. The fact of the matter is, approach control is probably going to break me off of the course somewhere out here. Let's go back up. They're probably going to break me off the course out here and give me a heading to fly northbound. Maybe they'll tell me to fly heading 360. And in that case, I would turn the aircraft to 360 and follow their instructions. And I no longer need to be on this line at all because I'm getting vectors for the approach. So now I'm pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and just check out the approach. I'm going to go ahead and reduce my range again. Okay, there's a 10-mile range. I'm on a 5-mile range. That's reduced all I can go. So I've got halt in the middle of the screen. That's where my cursor is. The next fix is going to be Irene, which is the final approach fix on this arrival. I know because it's got Irene, says 5 miles to the runway 17. I'm pretty sure that's the final approach fix without even having to look at my charts. But the reality is I would look at my charts to verify Irene is a final approach fix when I need to. Right now, I don't need to because I only need to check out my course to mile high VOR. When I get to Denver, I may end up checking the ATIS again, find out that they've turned the airport around and I'm landing on runway 35 right instead of 17 left. So I will brief this once I get into the air and closer to the arrival point after I've gotten a brand new ATIS as I get close to Denver. And then we might be changing this. So there's no point in being too concerned. Why do I put the approach in there? Well, if I go to my flight plan page, I will see that the distance now along my charted course is 369 nautical miles. That's not what it was when I didn't have any points in it. So now I know that that's the number of miles I'm actually going to be flying. All right, so let's go back to the legs page. Let's find my cursor. My cursor is over here on Irene, so I can go back and go to halt and back to Irene. And if I bring it down one more time, I'll be on runway 17. I'm golden. I feel pretty good about it. And that is how we program a route into the course or into the FMS. And now we can review the course by going to, how did we do it? We selected the legs page and we changed our format on our screen here to the plan page, or as some people call it, north up. How did I do that? I went down here to format and I changed the format. I can change the format again to a lot of different things. Let's go back to the original format that I like flying, and you'll notice that the cursor no longer functions. Keys are not active, it says right there. That's because I'm no longer in the plan page. I'm on the legs page, but I'm not on the plan page over here, or the plan view, I should say. Make sense so far? All right. So that's how we insert a route into the FMS. That was a real simple one. So in the next series, we're going to go ahead and discuss how to do a much more complicated one. But in that case, we'll probably depart Kansas City. Kansas City probably has a departure that takes us to Denver. So that's what we'll do next time. Practice putting this route in, get good at it, go back through and keep repeating how you do the initialization. And once you get the route in, we're kind of good to go. We would actually pull up our EFB, plug our routes into the EFB so that we have routing in our EFB that we can compare the points to as they show up on the FMS. All right, any questions about that? Hey, give me just text message me or shoot me an email if you're having issues with it at this point in time, and we'll see what we can do to get you ironed out, smoothed up, and back in the saddle again. But now we're getting closer to getting this thing off the ground and flying. We got a route in, and next thing we'll do is we'll put a few more different routes in, just so you learn how to put different routes in there, because there's just differences between the way they are put in, depending on the airport, depending on if you have a departure or just going point to point. If we have Victor Airways, they have to be put in. We'll get to all that, but for now, try this out, see how you like it. We'll use this release again, the same release we started out with. So good luck, and we'll see you on the next class period.